Well, war doesn't go on vacation, but Congress does. Representatives are set to return from a 12-day winter recess this week with a growing list of to-dos. And on top of that list, for many, is the House in funding for Ukraine. But it's almost become a political bargaining chip. Well, it has, for many. Joining us now, Doug Klain, political analyst with Razom for Ukraine, Razom, Ukrainian for Together, and non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Mr. Klain, thank you for joining us live in the country's capital, D.C.
Thanks for having me.
Colonel Martin O'Donnell, spokesman for the U.S. Army, told us if Congress doesn't get moving on getting aid to Ukraine, Ukraine will be out of money as early as May. But they're already running out of ammunition, losing on the ground. Give us some idea how the delay in the U.S. is changing the war right now in real time.
So Ukrainians have shown the world that they have the will and the skill to fight and win, but that doesn't do a whole lot of good if you don't have ammunition to fire. So right now, Ukrainians are running out of ammunition, especially artillery shells, which is allowing the Russians to advance on the front line. They've started to take back some territory that the Ukrainians liberated during their counteroffensive last year. They're also running out of interceptors, ammunition for their air defenses. That's allowing the Russians to fire more Iranian drones and ballistic missiles at Ukrainian civilians in their apartments, hospitals, and schools. So more ammunition is the key thing that Ukraine needs right now. Just yesterday, President Zelensky said Russia's gearing up for a new offensive in early spring or summer. And so Ukraine needs to prepare now. This is urgent.
Saturday marked 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. Leaders in Europe, the G7, and many here in the U.S. showing solidarity. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer made a surprise visit to reaffirm support. But without any aid deal in Congress, they're showing up to Ukraine with empty pockets. How is the political dysfunction here at home being perceived by Ukraine and our allies in Europe? I mean, there is clearly no united front. Do they get, though, how political ping-pongy and almost silly it is? Do they realize we're playing politics over their war, or no?
I think to a lot of Europeans and Ukrainians in particular, it is incomprehensible how the United States has allowed domestic politics and really a small faction of extremists to take aid to Ukraine hostage here. There is overwhelming bipartisan support in Congress for passing this aid. And for the Ukrainians, it's very clear how their fight to stop Russia from invading more of Europe is clearly in the national interests of the United States, in the interest of global security and stability. But this is raising alarm bells in Europe. They're questioning right now whether the United States can be counted on as a reliable ally, particularly now in an election year when everything the United States has been doing for the last 4 years could be upturned.
Yeah, I think General Milley said recently, if we lose Ukraine, you could almost double or triple the defense budget in years to come, considering the loss. So it seems like not only the right thing to do, which America has historically tried to do, but the fiscally responsible thing to do. So President Biden is now considering sending long-range missiles to Ukraine if funding does get passed, something Biden's changes tune on. Now, that could possibly change the war and, worries some as to what these long-range missiles could potentially do, could escalate things. The thoughts on that?
So I think that these fears of escalation from long-range missiles are overblown and have been shown to be, needless. The UK and France have already supplied Ukraine with long-range missiles. The Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters, which is in Crimea, that got a British Storm Shadow missile through the roof and destroyed it. The Ukrainians are already using long-range missiles to go after high-value Russian targets, and the Russians haven't done some magical, mythical escalation because of that. And so the U.S. has already provided some of our ATACMS long-range missiles. We gave a small number of short-range missiles late last year, and the Ukrainians used them, and in one night took out about 20% of Russia's attack helicopter fleet. So they've shown that they can use these missiles to great effect, as well as when we're talking about the problem of producing more ammunition for Ukraine. Russia has about a 6.5 to 1 advantage on artillery shells. One way to help close that gap, in addition to producing and sending more artillery shells, is by giving Ukraine the long-range missiles to take out Russia's ammunition depots. So the Russians quite literally have less ammunition to use. So there is no silver bullet in this war, but these weapons would be a really serious asset to Ukraine and help close the gap with Russia.
Yeah, almost sounds simple. Let's talk about Alexei Navalny, the dissident known around the world, and all dissidents of Russian President Putin are adversaries. They seem to die. Some of their planes fall out of the sky. Some ballerinas donate money to a nonprofit, then go to jail. Some Wall Street Journal reporters just go to prison for doing their job. And then Navalny, the number one dissident, if you will. I mean, dissident just means, you know, a guy who doesn't like the monster in charge, if you will, the war criminal, some would say. Mysteriously dies while imprisoned, a real lion, survived a previous poisoning. Navalny's body then was not given to his family for days, just apparently in the past 24 hours to his mother, like sign number 20 of a cover-up. I mean, can Putin do anything where he's ousted, either inside or outside job? Or I mean, what's the thought? What's the thought in Ukraine? What's the thought in Eurasia?
I think that right now Putin is feeling overconfident. Navalny was poisoned and barely survived an assassination attempt almost 3.5 years ago now, and he returned to Russia. He knew that it may be certain death that he was coming back to, but he came back anyway, and he was promptly arrested and put into a Russian penal colony. He was one of Russia's greatest challenges to Vladimir Putin. He exposed the rampant corruption in the Kremlin, and that was something that that found resonance in Russians. It was a real challenge to Putin's rule. And so Navalny's family says quite clearly that he was murdered. The circumstances surrounding his death are extremely suspicious, and I'm sure there's not going to be an independent investigation. But this goes to show that right now, Putin feels overconfident. He's about to have more quote-unquote elections next month which of course he's going to win by a wide margin and retain the presidency. He's got every reason to go after those that might present threats to his rule at this moment. The U.S. is faltering in its support for Ukraine. He is planning new offensives in Ukraine, and he's shoring up his rule at home.
Wow. You painted a real picture of what is pretty depressing, but it's the reality there, and we appreciate it. Doug Klain, policy analyst at Razom for Ukraine, Razom, Ukrainian for Together, and non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Mr. Klain, thank you for making time for us from the nation's capital. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.